Chapter 61 to 63. As soon as the sword exploded, the assassin at the top swiftly turned his gaze towards the source of the sound. Shirou took advantage of this situation and calculated that most of the assassins would head towards the explosion site to investigate. He seized this opportunity to move closer to the highest-positioned assassin and detonated the second sword. Boom! Accompanying the explosion was a flare fired by Kiritsugu from a distance. The countdown began. 60 seconds! 59 seconds! Shirou counted the time in his mind as he carefully calculated the distance and detonated the third sword. He had meticulously placed the swords, taking into account the distance, to ensure maximum impact. As Shirou detonated the 7 swords, he was dangerously close to the assassin's vantage point. To his surprise, he saw that 2 more assassins had already congregated there. The seasoned veteran, assassin, was not someone to be underestimated, certainly not someone like Shirou who was inexperienced in battle. The continual bombing without any visible attackers was a clear ploy to divert attention. The high ground, being the best location for a strategic view, was also the likely headquarters of the battlefield. Assassin, being a seasoned veteran, quickly saw through the trick. Unfortunately, Shirou had accounted for this eventuality. As a result, Assassin's reaction was also within Shirou's calculations. Shirou halted his movement, detonated all the swords simultaneously, and the explosion's sound rose steadily. The firelight illuminated Shirou's profile. Mentally calculating the distance, he merged with the Saint Graph and without hesitation began to recite the incantation. As he reached the second part of the incantation, a pitch-black short sword sliced through the sky and penetrated his defense, wounding his right arm. The limitations of mortal wisdom were once again evident. In hindsight, wouldn't the stronghold's perimeter be guarded by troops stationed there? 4 assassins appeared around Shirou and advanced to strangle him, but he evaded while continuing to chant. The speed of his incantation noticeably slowed, and a noticeable pallor overcame his body. By the time Shirou reached the middle of the third part of the incantation, most of the assassins had arrived and were choking him. His forehead was slick with cold sweat, and his internal organs, as well as his eyes and limbs, were trembling. It was a gamble, but it was the only option. It was either finish the incantation and turn to face the assassins or be killed by them. A gamble, with his life on the line. So as I pray, unlimited blade works. His left arm was impaled by 7 short swords, his right arm by 3, and his right thigh by 1. The pain was unbearable. It hurts. So painful. But he had won the gamble. He completed the incantation. As the assassins approached, their steps rapid and determined, Shirou brought his incantation to a close. A whirlwind of sand swirled into being, darkening the sky and revealing a crimson wasteland dotted with countless swords. The horizon flickered with the glow of burning flames, creating a desolate and foreboding landscape that looked like a graveyard of swords. The assassins stood in the reality marble, feeling slightly uneasy. However, their gaze finally settled on Shirou, who stood alone in the wilderness. With a wave of their short swords, the assassin charged toward Shirou like a dark mist of death. "Do you really think you can overpower me? Ha! It's impossible! I'll bring you to your knees and put an end to all of you. This is the final resting place for swords, and for you, it will be your grave." With a flick of his wrist, Shirou commanded the swords in the wasteland to respond. Like a surging tidal wave, the blades rose up and rushed toward the oncoming assassins. They cut through the air with deadly precision, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. Clang, clang, clang! The cacophony of battle blended with the cries of pain, and the ground was stained red with the flow of blood. Shirou's heart pounded, but he remained steadfast as the rain of swords claimed the lives of countless assassins. The previous day, he had witnessed the horrors of a true bloodbath, and after being imbued with that savage brutality, it would be unnatural for him to quiver or feel discomfort. As Shirou gazed up at the desolate and gloomy sky, he gradually regained his composure and became aware of the changes within himself brought on by the unexpected war. Despite being unsettling, he realized that these changes would increase his chances of survival in the conflict. The fight had ended the moment Shirou unleashed unlimited blade works. Hassan lacked a noble phantasm capable of facing reality marble. Their only asset was a phantom that heightened the individual's reconnaissance abilities. The battlefield was littered with the fallen, and blood stained the ground. The assassins may have perished, but Shirou's thirst for revenge remained unfulfilled. He clenched his fist, and a handful of sharp blades shot out, burying themselves in the pile of bodies. Then, broken phantasm! Boom! Rumble! Rumble! The impact obliterated even the bones. This was hatred. This was also revenge. His reserves of magical energy were depleted, causing unlimited blade works to shut down automatically. The pain was intense, and agony racked Shirou's body as short swords pierced both of his arms, causing blood to flow down the blades. However, he knew he couldn't fall here. Tokiyomi! Tosaka Tokiyomi! He had to kill him! Once he did, the Holy Grail War would be over. He had to kill him. He must end it all by killing him. A burst of light appeared in the distance, signaling the start of a 30-second countdown. Shirou mustered his remaining strength and sprinted toward the source of the flare. Whoosh! Shirou heard a sharp clack as a short sword whizzed past him, grazing his thigh. Thud! He tumbled to the ground and quickly rolled onto his back. As he raised his head, he was met with the sight of multiple assassins charging toward him. He realized with alarm that the group he thought he had defeated was just a fraction of the group that now threatened him. With determination etched on his face, Shirou pushed his magic circuits to their limits. He summoned a sword and created a brilliant flash with the broken phantasm. Next, he released his Saint Graph to hide and then conjured a bow and arrow. He aimed towards the direction of the flare bomb and fired, then followed it up with another explosive, broken phantasm. The ground shook with a thundering boom. The assassins quickly took notice of the exploding broken phantasm and immediately gave chase, but in the opposite direction. Shirou's ploy of creating a distraction was exposed, and they wouldn't be easily fooled again. However, the assassins failed to see through Shirou's true intentions, to use his own life as the ultimate gamble in one bold strategy. Despite the pain, he dragged himself towards the location illuminated by the flare bomb, determined to see his plan through. Before the last flare exploded, Shirou hastened to the war zone where Kiritsugu and Tokiyomi were engaged in combat. Despite being within reach of the fray, he elected to observe the battle between the two men from a distance. Killing Tokiyomi was the top priority for Shirou, but his ultimate goal was to take out both Tokiyomi and Kiritsugu. Given his weakened state, he decided to bide his time and let Tokiyomi tire Kiritsugu out before making his move. Bracing himself against a nearby shelter, Shirou withdrew all of the short swords from his body and cast healing Magecraft on himself. Though the Magecraft had a potent restorative effect on physical injury, it was of no use in alleviating mental exhaustion or treating natural ailments. In a previous battle against Spartacus, Shirou sustained serious injuries to both his arms, but he utilized his healing Magecraft to cure himself, thus evading detection by his parents and regaining full use of his limbs. He was proficient in healing Magecraft and quickly mended his external wounds. However, the internal pain and exhaustion persisted. Shirou lurked, watching the battle between Kiritsugu and Tokiyomi unfold. Kiritsugu was at a severe disadvantage, struggling against the superior tactics of Tokiyomi. The latter had meticulously prepared for the fight, taking into account Kiritsugu's origin and even accounting for normal firearms. It was clear that Tokiyomi had thoroughly studied Kiritsugu's tactics and was one step ahead. Tokiomi avoided direct confrontation with Kiritsugu, opting instead to use his gemstone Magecraft to launch remote bombings and flame incineration. He relied solely on suppressing fire. Despite the relentless attack, Kiritsugu kept his cool and attempted to flee. However, the surrounding fire became Tokiomi's familiars, trapping Kiritsugu. His black coat was in tatters, singed by the flames, and his face obscured by dust, a sorry sight. Shirou considered the option. Should I wait for Tokiomi to defeat Kiritsugu, then move in to kill him? He quickly dismissed the thought, shaking his head. Without Kiritsugu, Tokiomi would quickly catch wind of Shirou's ambush and call upon Gilgamesh for assistance, destroying any chance of victory. Additionally, Shirou's urge to eliminate Tokiomi overshadowed his motive to kill Kiritsugu. If Tokiomi had died sooner, Gilgamesh's elimination would also come sooner. And with Gilgamesh gone, Shirou's happiness would have come sooner too. Despite adopting Sakura, he must be strict with her biological father and holds no mental burden about it. Survival was the only way to achieve anything else. Losing everything, including life, was foolish. Shirou prioritized protecting his life first and dealt with other matters later. Taking advantage of Tokiomi's focus on Kiritsugu, Shirou projected his two swords and sneaked up on Tokiomi, ready to ambush him. Unbeknownst to Shirou, before he could even get near, Tokiomi fiercely turned and hurled 3 gems at him. Shirou swiftly narrowed his eyes and projected a barrier to block the incoming attack. In an instant, there was a loud boom as Tokiomi triggered the Magecraft within the gems, destroying the barrier into fragments. I never thought Lord El Meloy would be so proficient in using projection Magecraft. Tokiomi displayed an elegant smile. That outfit, is that your new mystic code, Lord El Meloy? Tokiomi glanced at his outfit and asked with curiosity. Shirou's brows furrowed as he thought, Does he think I'm Kaneth? He then replied, Yes, Lord Tosaka. Interesting. However, as the supervisor of Fuyuki City, I must say that your arrival, Lord El Meloy, is quite unwelcome. Tokiomi spoke with a polite smile as he swung his staff, sending a burst of fiery projectiles toward Shirou, resembling the wings of a phoenix. Shirou deftly evaded by rolling to the side. You're not behaving like a true noble, Lord El Meloy, remarked Tokiomi. Nobility goes beyond mere words. It's reflected in one's actions, retorted Shirou. Indeed, Lord El Meloy. Tokiomi unleashed a barrage of gems toward Shirou, trying to overwhelm him with firepower, similar to his attack on Kiritsugu. Shirou brandished his dual blades and charged toward Tokiomi. Such recklessness is unbecoming of a noble, remarked Tokiomi, with a light smile as a gem on his staff shone, creating a protective shield in front of him. But with a loud crack, Shirou's sword broke through the shield, causing it to crack like a spider's web. This was thanks to Shirou's sudden fusion with his Saint Graph. Tokiomi's eyes widened, his expression shifting slightly. You're not Lord El Meloy. You're Caster. It's too late to realize it now, exclaimed Shirou as he struck the shield once more with his sword, causing it to crack repeatedly. Crack, 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 crack. The shield crumbled further, but Tokiomi's expression remained unchanged. His dignified composure allowed him to remain calm even in the face of disaster. Tokiomi's hand shot up, poised to summon Gilgamesh using the command seals. However, in that very moment, he caught sight of Kiritsugu rushing towards him, gun aimed and ready to fire. The realization hit Tokiomi hard. He couldn't let himself get hit by that bullet. His expression shifted dramatically. Tokiomi was forced to abandon the use of command seals and go on the offensive against Kiritsugu. However, Kiritsugu utilized Time Alter to quicken his own movements, deftly evading the attack. With a loud bang, the origin bullet was fired. As Tokiomi attempted to dodge Kiritsugu's aim, Shirou tightened his grip. Broken phantasm! Rumbling! The sword, which was deflected by the shield, detonated, obliterating Tokiomi's defense. A brilliant flash temporarily blinded him, and he reflexively squeezed his eyes shut. At that moment, Kiritsugu pulled another trigger on his gun. With a sharp bang, the round-headed origin bullet shot through the fiery battlefield, spinning through the air and plunging into Tokiomi's chest. Kacha kacha! Tokiomi's magic circuits were overloaded, causing him to be hurled to the ground by the force of his own magical energy. The Azoth sword in his pocket clattered to the ground with a resounding clang. Tokiomi lay on the ground, weakly thrashing and wailing pitifully. Ah, 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 ah. Gone were all traces of elegance. Kiritsugu paid no attention to Tokiomi, instead turning to take aim at Shirou. But Shirou was ready, his demi-servant body allowing him to swing his sword at a speed faster than Kiritsugu. With a sharp cha sound, the sharp blade emitted a cold light and sliced through Kiritsugu's gun. Unfortunately for Shirou, Kiritsugu, having swiftly activated Time Alter, avoided the fatal strike. Shirou's sword merely severed Kiritsugu's gun and grazed his cheek. Undeterred, Shirou pressed forward in pursuit of victory. However, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh! The sound of shattering glass filled the air as 8 black keys hurtled toward Shirou and Kiritsugu, slicing through the sky. Shirou brandished his sword to fend off the incoming black keys, but Kiritsugu was sluggish in his response due to the recoil from his Time Alter, leaving him with a gash on his waist. Shirou gazed in the direction from which the black keys had been fired and spotted Kirei, clad in his priestly robes, standing before Tokiomi. "This is the end," Kirei declared. "I won't allow you to harm my teacher." "Kirei! Kirei!" Tokiomi struggled, reaching out to Kirei. "Teacher!" Kirei said, retrieving the Azoth sword from the ground and beaming as he took Tokiomi's hand. In a sudden motion, he swung a black key and severed Tokiomi's hand, along with the command seals. "Cha! Ah! Ah!" Tokiomi cried out in agony as blood gushed from his arm and covered the ground. He thrashed, screamed, and bellowed before finally losing consciousness and collapsing to the ground. Dozens of assassins materialized around Kirei and set off in pursuit of Shirou and Kiritsugu. With no other option, Shirou was forced to flee for his own survival and temporarily shelve his plan to eliminate Kiritsugu. An assassin gazed upon Tokiomi lying in a puddle of blood and asked Kirei, "Master, shall I eliminate him for you? He's still alive." "Kill him?" Kirei replied with a smile. "He's my teacher. How could I take his life? I am a priest. How could I commit murder? I won't kill him. I will heal him and ensure he lives a fulfilling life." The assassin shuddered and unconsciously backed away at the sight of Kirei's smile. The command seal on Tokiomi's hand was cut off. His magic circuits were destroyed by the origin bullet, and the magic crest of his family was destroyed. Death is the only relief for a magus. Yet Kirei wants him to live. Assassin shuddered. Kirei reminded him of the employers he served in his past life. However, only a master like Kirei could truly be called a master. Kirei mended Tokiomi's wounds and lifted him. Gazing upon the severed hand and command seal on the ground, he kicked it into the nearby flames. The king who aided Kirei in realizing his true self never could have envisioned becoming the first servant to fall, let alone at Kirei's hands. The thought filled Kirei with wicked, treacherous delight, betrayal, pleasure, and joy. Ha 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 ha! Kirei burst into hearty laughter, his profile illuminated by the flickering firelight. Tears streamed down his face, but he was overflowing with joy. The Tosaka family has a rich history and is renowned as an illustrious magical family. Their lineage can be traced back to Wizard Marshal Kishur Zelrech Schweinorg, also known as the Magician of the Second Magic. The Tosaka once held secret loyalty to the Holy Church, but their ancestor was swayed by the Wizard Marshal Zelrech, leading them to embrace the world of Magecraft instead. They're favored by both the Holy Church and the Mages Association as disciples of Wizard Marshall, who was given the responsibility of managing the lands of Fuyuki City due to their powerful connections with the two prominent organizations. Despite their favorable treatment from the Mages Association, the Tosaka family was viewed as outsiders by many conservative Magi. As a result, young Tosaka Tokiomi faced prejudice during his. However, Tokiomi, born with a strong will, was not broken by the prejudice he faced. Instead, it only strengthened his pride. He was determined to fulfill the Tosaka family's aspirations and use the Holy Grail War to reach the root. For this, Tokiomi spent several years preparing and making arrangements for his future. Although he was a step behind the Matu family in recognizing that Zenju Aoi would give birth to a high-quality Magus offspring, he managed to marry her and had 2 offspring with exceptional talent. Tokiomi took great care in raising his 2 daughters and made careful arrangements for their futures, despite unexpected incidents. He designated Rin, the elder daughter, as the inheritor of the Tosaka family's Magic Crest, while Sakura, the younger daughter, would inherit the Matu family's Magic Crest. With this arrangement, even if Tokiomi were to die in the Holy Grail War, he could rest assured that the future of both the Tosaka family and his daughters would be secure. Everything was in order. Little did he know that the Matu family's inheritance of the Magic Crest involved using the Crest Worm and the Lust Worm. Despite being a magus, Tokiomi had the normal emotions of a parent, causing his arrangements to crumble. Furthermore, Rin's inheritance of the Tosaka family's Magic Crest was also destroyed by Kiritsugu's origin bullet. The Magic Crest is a closely guarded family secret, recorded in their hidden annals. It can be compared to the flesh of a magus, while their magic circuit is akin to their blood and bones. The crest serves as proof of a magus's existence. A magus family refers to the lineage of magic crests passed down from one child to the next. The continuity of the magic crest is considered the most crucial aspect, so even if the biological bloodline is broken, as long as the magic crest is inherited, the magus family continues to exist. However, losing a magic crest means the end of a magus family, resulting in a complete severance of all ties to Magecraft, even if descendants possess the magic circuit. Yes, the destruction of the Magic Crest marks the end of a magus family's legacy and signifies the downfall of the Tosaka family. Ah! 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 Tokiomi's heart shattered as he realized the consequences, tears rolling down his cheeks as he pounded the sickbed with one hand and the stump of his other arm. Why am I still alive? Why? The once elegant smile vanished, replaced by tears of despair, as it became clear that the magic circuit was ruined, the magic crest destroyed, and even the arm bearing the command seals had been amputated. What has happened? What is this? Oh, God. What is this? Ah! Tokiomi crumbled under the weight of his guilt. Had he brought upon himself the retribution for the Tosaka family's rejection of their divine beliefs and embrace of magic? Was this the consequence imposed by a higher power? The family's hopes and dreams, the tireless efforts of 5 generations, and the shining future of the eldest daughter were all destroyed in an instant by a single bullet. Their pride, self-assurance, and dignity crumbled along with their aspirations. The cherished Magic Crest that had been passed down through 5 generations was destroyed. The Tosaka family was done for. Tokiomi was consumed by guilt and shame as he realized he had failed to live up to the Tosaka family's expectations and brought about its downfall. How could he ever look his ancestors in the eye? Ah! Ah! His anguished cries echoed through the hospital as he wept, tears streaming down his face. Kirei, having paid a visit to Tokiomi, stepped out of the hospital, unable to contain his emotions. Ha ha ha, ha 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 ha. I can't hold it in anymore. Unable to suppress his feelings any longer, Kirei leaned against a wall and erupted in a fit of wild laughter, tears streaming down his face. Drip, Drip! His face was alight with joyous laughter, his heart overflowing with excitement as he finally comprehended the truth. He couldn't help but acknowledge his twisted, chaotic nature. What was it that made him this way? Ha 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 ha. He laughed and wept, experiencing both happiness and agony at the same time. Gilgamesh, oh Gilgamesh, you just make me happy, very happy. Gilgamesh was the first to exit the stage, brought down by none other than the wicked individual whom the king had freed from his cage of false compassion. Ha ha ha. This sensation. It's so good. Reality. Reality. The world is growing increasingly more real. This was what Kirei had been searching for, but had eluded him for 27 years. The feeling of being alive. In the garden of the Einsburn castle, the heated argument had come to a close. The King of Knights, Artoria, was defeated, ruthlessly overpowered by the King of Conquest. The Conqueror King brought wine as he argued with Artoria, disregarding their difference in status, discussing the king's way, and making a decision based on his own beliefs about who was most deserving of the Holy Grail. You are not fit to be a ruler, let alone a king, Iskandar ruthlessly said to Artoria. Do you have the authority to determine my fitness for the throne? Artoria challenged him, her blue eyes blazing with the fury of a lioness. What is flawed about her motivation for seeking the Holy Grail? Revert to the day of the selection. Refrain from drawing the sword and let the people pick a different ruler. This means renouncing your reign as a king, which is no different from tyranny, Iskandar declared. My drawing of the sword resulted in the downfall of Camelot and the loss of lives. It was a blunder, allowing the people to elect another king, preserving Camelot, and avoiding the needless loss of life. Isn't rectifying one's mistake the right choice? Artoria asked. Rectifying a mistake? Iskandar burst into laughter for a long time. So that's it. The so-called honest king, the king without desire, the ideal king. Don't you think your subjects live in fear of an inhuman king like yourself? Artoria's hand shook as she demanded. What are you implying, king of conquerors? A king must be more overbearing than anyone, more greedy than anyone. Only then will his subordinates follow and love him, and help him fulfill his ambition. If you have no desires or aspirations, you're not even human, let alone a king, Iskandar stated. He continued, a lack of desires means you can't bring out the best in your subordinates, and a lack of aspirations means they can't find common ground with you. People all have desires. They fuel ideals and create connections. How can your subordinates flourish, and how can they connect with an inhuman king with no desires or aspirations? But what about you, king of conquerors? You boast so much. Have you ever considered what will become of the Macedonian empire you've built after your death and its inevitable collapse? Artoria asked. So what if it crumbles? My subordinates will inherit my ideals and my aspirations. They'll keep striving toward the magnificent world I envisioned. My empire still stands today. And what have you left behind? Only a legend, Iskandar replied. Iskandar exclaimed, You must have taken the ideal king sung by those wandering poets as your benchmark for ruling. But have you ever thought about it? The ideal king is inhumane because he does not exist. The closer you get to the ideal king, the fewer people will follow you. People adore a king because he embodies traits everyone possesses: courage, love, and ambition. Without desires and goals, you lack love and courage. You're not even human. How can you be a king? If you have a leader like that, they must be a failure. Artoria gritted her teeth. And what's your point? Iskandar stated. Only the greedy can have everything. Gilgamesh added, Only those who conquer fate can control the future. With a sinister smirk, Gilgamesh turned to Artoria. Your innocence is like that of a child's. The king desires to possess you. Artoria glared at Gilgamesh. What did you say? It's an honor, The king wants to see your pure soul torn apart by chaos. The tears that spill from your delicate face. What a lovely and tempting sight, Gilgamesh chuckled. His laughter abruptly stopped as his expression dropped. Archer, Iskandar said, looking at Gilgamesh with a furrowed brow. He could sense that Gilgamesh's servant aura was fluctuating as if his master was disappearing. You've really done it now, you mongrel, Gilgamesh said with a sneer. You may be boastful, Archer, Artoria interjected, but now you're the second to fall after Castor. Boastful? Gilgamesh chuckled. Ha 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 ha, this is just the beginning. Let's end this feast here and continue next time. But I'm afraid next time I'll be drinking alone. With a final laugh, Gilgamesh vanished. Iskandar soon followed suit and disappeared. Artoria clenched her fists, still grappling with the remnants of her adrenaline. What's wrong with recognizing a mistake and trying to fix it? She wondered. What's wrong with wanting to save Camelot and keep my people alive? Is it wrong to want people to live, to want the country to endure, to want to rectify my own mistakes? Artoria resolved. The Grail. I must obtain the Grail, to rectify my mistakes, to atone for Camelot's regret. But Archer has already been defeated. What did he mean by his words? As she pondered this, Kiritsugu returned, his face etched with distress. He was covered in burns and wounds, particularly on his right cheek, which had been deeply sliced. But the news he brought left Artoria stunned. Castor is still alive. He's hiding inside his master's body? Artoria was tricked. She clenched her hands tightly.